Why, hello there, and welcome to this video. I did a thing. I did the thing. I practiced what I preach. I'm very big on this. I want to not just talk the talk, I want to walk the walk. And that's exactly what this video today is about. I am here to talk about a lobbying event that I participated in here in Ohio, in Columbus at the State House. I went with a nonprofit Trans Unity Coalition, and I'm excited to talk about our efforts there and how we are attempting to combat the transphobia, these anti-trans provisions that they are attempting to shove into a budget bill. What bill? Bill 96. So Bill 96 is a 5,000-page budget bill here in Ohio. It will span for 2 years. Within all of that, hidden in the fine print, hidden between all of these different provisions, are several anti-trans provisions that are devastating for our community if they pass as is. They would be harmful not to just trans people, but our entire community, the LGBTQ community, but not just even our community, to the everyone. This could be harmful for random everyday people. These are some of the anti-trans provisions hidden within Bill 96. The first one is weaponizing funding against unhoused trans youth. So this bill allocates $5.5 million over 2 years for shelters, but it has a clause stating that no funds shall be distributed to youth shelters that promote or affirm social gender transition. So essentially, if this shelter were to house a transgender youth and use their correct pronouns, they could lose the entirety of their funding. This means that shelters will not risk housing trans kids because they don't want everyone to be thrown onto the streets. And so they will simply force trans youth onto the streets to be homeless with no recourse, no safety net. Obviously devastating. I don't think I need to go into that more. Targeting mental health access through Medicaid. No funds appropriated shall be distributed for mental health services that promote or affirm gender transition. I don't think that I need to go into why that is dangerous. Censoring literature in public libraries. Adopting the anti-trans executive order that Trump wrote that legally makes everyone female and is just horribly written. It's pathetic. And then a pride flag ban in state buildings. There's also a provision trying to remove feminine hygiene products from men's bathrooms. And all of this has been spearheaded by some very transphobic leadership in the Ohio legislatures. Like in the legislature, there are some incredibly bigoted leadership, and they are spearheading these efforts. So when I heard about the lobbying event happening from Trans Unity Coalition, I knew that this was something I needed to participate in. And not just that I needed to, I wanted to. This is a fight that I'm ready to fight. This is a stand I'm ready to take. I am very, very thankful that I participated. I have to admit, though, I was very nervous about this event. It was my first time meeting all of these people and getting involved with this nonprofit. And it was actually my first time going to the Ohio State House. It was my first time talking to representatives directly or staffers directly, like in this kind of format. It was a very new experience for me. And for that reason, I feel like I learned a lot. And I also met a lot of people. It was actually a very, very positive experience for me in general. I know that it's weird to say that when you're trying to combat youth being forced onto the streets, but I feel that we were able to make an impact. We were able to do something yesterday. And the people that I met, the relationships that I created, or the connections that have started from this experience, I think will span for a long time. And I'm excited to do more work with the Trans Unity Coalition, or really any advocacy group that is, doing events or hosting things. I want to be more involved locally, and I want to be involved with this kind of work. I mean, it's something I talk about all the time, that we need to be organized. We need to get out there. We need to do things. We need to talk to people. We need to represent ourselves. And that is exactly what I did yesterday. And I honestly can't tell you how satisfying it was. I feel like it was more effective than probably anything I've done here on YouTube. And I hope that I can do more stuff like this in the future and have a bigger impact in the real world. So I don't have a lot of time to get into everything here, because I actually have some interviews to share with you from some members of the Trans Unity Coalition, as well as some people that were just engaged with this particular event. I'm excited for you all to hear these interviews and hear what these people have to say. But I just wanted to mention a few things from this experience that stuck out to me. So first of all, I want to say that a shocking amount of people were simply not aware of this anti-trans stuff happening in this budget bill. There were like Democrats, Republicans, a lot of people were quite simply unaware of a lot of this stuff. And if they were aware of like one provision, they were not aware of the other 4 or 5. And so there was a lot of education that happened on that day. There was a lot of informing people of this stuff. And there was also a lot of advice that was given to us by people, by staffers, by representatives, by all sorts of people. And I feel like we came away stronger and more able to fight this fight in the future as we know the process with this bill, we know where it's heading, we know what actions we can take. And I feel like that was in and of itself an incredibly valuable experience. Like it just means a lot to get out there and actually engage with real people and make an impact in that way. I think that a lot of the times we view advocacy work as something that we need to be doing online. And, you know, there are a lot of people doing that stuff online, and that is valuable. There is value to that. But I think we underestimate real world action, boots on the ground, or whatever you want to say. But like, I felt that value yesterday, and I'm like hungry for more. Like, I want more real world impact. I want to be able to meet more people. I want to be able to talk to more people. I want to be able to spread awareness more. And I think that it's just way more effective when you do that kind of stuff in person. One thing that we heard from a lot of people, like staffers and representatives, is that a lot of people were not aware of these provisions at all, and that this was sort of a shock to them to hear about it. And we also heard that a lot of like the Republicans, because Ohio's like a super majority for Republicans, they have the trifecta. It's a super majority. And what we heard was that like a lot of this stuff was forced into the bill by leadership, and it just kind of wasn't being challenged by other Republicans. There aren't a massive number of anti-trans Republicans in Ohio as representatives attacking us. It's like 2 people in leadership, and everyone else is sort of just falling in line, or like they don't have, it's not in their wheelhouse, or they just don't have the time or energy or like the empathy or care to fight this stuff. So one thing that we very much learned throughout this event was that like people are willing to talk to us, willing to meet with us. And even like the Republicans offices that we met with, they were very courteous and very willing to listen and engage with us. And I definitely got some hopeful emotions out of that. We were able to hammer out like a plan of action to go at this bill to try to get these provisions removed or block them in some way. And there are several avenues of action that we can take. So like, for instance, this has passed the House, but now it's going to go into committees, and there will be committee hearings, and testimony can be given at these hearings. And if you give that testimony, you can make an impact on the bill, and you could potentially get these provisions removed in a committee or something of that effect. That is one angle of attack. Another one would be trying to get in contact with the governor, because DeWine has actually done a couple good things for trans folk, if you want to frame it that way. It's kind of hard to say it that way because he's not like an ally or anything, but like there was an anti-trans bill that got to his desk a year or 2 ago. He like vetoed it, and then the legislature got 2/3 votes to pass it anyway because they can overturn a veto. But he was able to veto that bill, and the reasons that he gave for wanting to do that is that he was going to save lives. He had heard testimony from families that have transgender children, and he realized that this was life-saving care and it was important, and he didn't want there to be the loss of life or harm to children in Ohio. And so he sided with, common sense, with, going against the anti-trans bill. And although they were able to overturn it, I think that speaks to his potential principled positions. Like, he might actually care about trans people as people. And so when he sees this kind of stuff on his desk, the governor of Ohio has line item veto power, meaning he can strike any provision he wants from this budget bill. And if we were able to get in contact with him or discuss this kind of stuff with him, maybe we could convince him to line item veto these items, because a lot of them don't even have anything to do with the budget. Like, several of these items have nothing to do with the budget, and the ones that do are just plain language harmful. Like, they do nothing but harm people. They add nothing to the health and wellness of America or Ohio. They don't make our state better. It just hurts people. And so I think there is an avenue there that could be potentially successful as well. And beyond that, there is also the potential something happening with the courts blocking these specific provisions or something. That is also another avenue, although that one is kind of more out of our hands than the other two avenues. Like with committee hearings, we can go and testify, we can give testimony. And with the governor, we can try to meet with him and speak with him directly or to his team directly. But you know what I mean? Like the courts, that's sort of more out of our hands. That's like there's less we can do about that. But I'm encouraged by the fact that there are certain things that we can do to press back and to potentially get this budget bill to be just a budget bill and not a secret anti-trans warhead. Another piece of advice that we got from the lobbying event that I think was important and kind of affirming to my positions was that a lot of people were telling us that we need to engage with Republicans and challenge like their piety. We need to make them feel bad, but like in an empathetic way. Like we need them to realize that trans people are humans so that they feel bad that they've had some really ignorant or bigoted positions in the past and therefore are willing to flip or change on them. So it's not like shaming them, but it's like making them realize that they should feel ashamed. So like kind of the line that we heard from people is like, we need to make them cry. We don't want to make them angry. We want to make them sad for us. We want to make them realize how desperate this is for us, to make them feel empathy and compassion for us. And the only way that we can do that is by humanizing ourselves as a community, normalizing ourselves as a community, showing up, talking to people, being around people, and helping them realize, like, put a face to it. You know, like we're not just some random subgroup that they've met no one in and they just have no care about. Like this, we can become a known entity in the sense that like they have compassion and empathy for us, and therefore maybe are willing to back off in the future or support us. Now, of course, as I mentioned, there are some people in leadership that are incredibly bigoted. I don't think we have any hope of reaching those people. But if there is enough pressure from underneath them, then they could potentially cave and realize like, hey, this stuff is super unpopular. I'm not going to get away with it. It's kind of destroying my reputation. So I'll just drop it. And I think that is a potentially really valuable understanding, like rather than like, hey, we should just hate all these Republicans and feel disgust and anger and shout them down and all that stuff. I think instead it's like, hey, we should be trying to meet with as many of them as possible and bring them over to a common sense position of empathy and compassion. But okay, I could go on forever. Honestly, like a lot of stuff happened at this lobbying event. There was a lot that happened. It was a long day. Okay, it was a very long day. But I just want to go ahead and jump into these interviews now because I think that they are incredibly valuable. I want you guys to hear from real activists and people that were involved. Like we have an interview from Bri, who's the organizer and founder of the Trans Unity Coalition. So definitely stick around for that. I hope that you guys enjoy it, and we'll be right back. So I'm here at a lobbying event with the Trans Unity Coalition, and I figured I would do some interviews with the people that participated to give you insights on how that went and their thoughts and stuff. So introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm 33 years old. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm male to female. I've been transitioning for 10 years, but only been on hormones for about 6. So I had about 2.5 year gap between.
Okay. And then tell me like a little bit about yourself. Just like, what do you like to do on your free time? And like, just like a little bit about yourself.
Right now I'm currently working full time while at school. Some of my hobbies include snowboarding, nature walking, and video games.
Okay, cool. Snowboarding, really?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, that's
very
cool.
fun.
That sounds like a really exciting hobby. So tell me how you found out about today's events.
I actually found out about today's event from your YouTube channel.
Oh, shucks.
I know. I saw the video on Monday, and that's when I contacted you.
Yeah, no, that's really impressive. I think that's really awesome that you saw the video and you immediately were like, hey, I want to get involved with this. Like, that sounds really awesome. So like, what about this event or this opportunity made you specifically want to get involved with it?
I want to get involved with this event because 1, I'm originally from Ohio. 2, previous anti-trans bills in Ohio have really changed my life, such as the one where they did the higher education last year, the bathroom rules in college.
Yeah.
That made me go from not going from Case Western Reserve, which I was originally accepted to going to a college in Pennsylvania because I just didn't want to deal with it. And I don't want any more anti-trans laws passing in Ohio, because if not, I'm going to probably end up moving to Pennsylvania. And Ohio has always been my home.
Right. Yeah. And so it's like you're motivated because you grew up here and it feels like your home, and it feels like they're trying to make it so you can't live where you grew up, you know?
Correct.
Like they're
Which
trying
is
to push
really
you out.
depressing.
Yeah, that is kind of depressing, but it's good that you were motivated to use that energy to like do something about it. Like you wanted to say how far you drove to come to this event?
Just under 4 hours to get here. And I took a vacation day to come.
Yeah, I mean that's dedication, honestly. I think that that's really inspiring that you didn't have much time to find out about it, and it's a long drive. Like a lot of people would have just been like, I'm just going to stay home. Like, you know, it's like it's important to me, but you know, 4 hours is a long drive or whatever. But the fact that you are willing to take action on that, I think is really inspiring. And then I just wanted to ask you, like, your thoughts on how you think today went from your personal experience. Do you feel like, you know, it was an impactful day for you? Do you feel like this was an important day for the community? Like, how do you feel like today went?
I feel like today went really well. I got a lot of unique perspectives. We talked to mostly Democrats, but we also talked to a Republican, which was good to get their point of view, spread our messages around. And I think it was an important time, especially it's also helpful for networking to make people aware of our issues and why we don't want these bills to be passed.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think it was definitely a good day. We definitely got a lot of information about things that we can do to try to help our cause, like with this specific situation, but also in general, things that we can do in the future to try to help our cause and our fight and stuff. And do you think you'll participate in future advocacy events and stuff like that, or what do you think?
I do think I'll participate in more advocacy events. If you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I probably would have said no. But lately, trans rights are completely under attack everywhere in the nation.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's really important for us to stand up for ourselves now, because we're losing allies. Less people are standing up for us. So we really need to advocate for ourselves.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a climate that makes a lot of people feel scared to stand up for us, even if they're on our side, you know, like timid allyship. I think that that's a big issue in our current climate. So I think having like people that want to come out and want to, like, you know, introduce themselves and like meet people and get involved with organization and advocacy, I think that that's huge. I think that that's vital right now. I think we need that, like, now more than any time ever, honestly.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And thank you for your
as
time.
well.
Yeah, of course. And
be sure to like and subscribe.
Why, hello there. I'm at an event with Trans Unity Coalition. We did some lobbying at the State House today, and we met with a bunch of representatives and did a bunch of stuff. So I'm talking with the people that were involved here today just to figure out like who they are, what's going on, and all that stuff. So do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Amber Green, 24 years old now. I'm currently a student with a digital media production major. I graduated with an audio recording minor just last summer, and I'm just trying to work in the movie industry and trying to exist, and you know, politics are getting in the way. So
yeah, no, that's very true. That's cool that you're trying to get involved with the movie industry. I think that's interesting. What do you like to do outside of that kind of stuff? Like, what kind of hobbies do you like?
a lot of video games. Shocker, I know.
Right.
Listening to music, recording music. That's my big thing is music, but collecting music. Basically, spending money on as many things as I can.
Right.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Every hobby costs money, unfortunately. And
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool. So tell me a little bit about how you found out about today's events.
So my wife, Ellie, she actually has been helping organize a lot of the Ohio stuff. I think she's technically the chapter director of the Ohio chapter. But we initially found out about this whole thing through the a rally we had here in February or March.
Right, with the Trans Unity Coalition?
Yeah, they held a rally in the Capitol, and we showed up because it seemed like a good thing to do, and just got involved. We just talked to people, and now we're here. Now we're like, you know, way more her than me, but like running the show, sort of. You know, it's like that one little step. Yeah.
No, of course, yeah, and like that just really goes to show like the movement needs people, and like if you show up, like there's a place for you to help out. Like there's work that needs done. There's all sorts of stuff that can be helpful. So I really appreciate that you took the time and effort to come out to an event, and then you took it even further, and you said, I want to keep staying involved and keep coming and doing stuff. I think that's really awesome. What personally made you motivated to get involved with
I mean, obviously, like, legislature in the state is attacking me as a person and my existence and my ability to live. So, like, it's one of those things where I'm not interested in politics. I don't like politics. I slept through all of my social studies classes in school, and it's just come to a point where, politics have come to my door, and I have to do something. I can't just sit down and do nothing. No matter how much I want to be uninvolved, I have to be.
I've made that point before in a video, and I got a little bit of backlash to it, but I do think that it's true that like we're at a point where if you're trans, you don't really have the privilege of being apolitical. A lot of cis hetero people, or even some queer people, you can be kind of apolitical, and like whether politics will affect your life or not, like I don't know, like yeah it does, but they're not at the same level of threat as we are, since we're like the target right now from the Republican Party and everything.
And really the scariest thing with that is that we're the target right now, but all those people who have the privilege of being apolitical could be the next target. And there's so many people that don't care right now, that think they're fine and safe because they're not the target, and they are next on the list, and they don't realize that.
Yeah, no, that's super true. I see that sometimes when I'm talking to other queer folk who aren't trans. They're like not necessarily as concerned as our community is, and we're sort of waving the red flags like, guys, like it's gonna go straight to you after us, like so I super appreciate that. You talked about not necessarily liking politics and news. I think there's a lot of people tend to think like, oh, I'll just wait for someone who's passionate about it to get involved. I'll wait for someone who actually wants to get involved. But sometimes it's not a want or like a passion. Sometimes it's survival. It's like a need. Like we have to do this. So
because people aren't doing that. People aren't going out there. I mean, some of the senators we talked to today who were massive allies, who knew about half the stuff we were talking about, didn't know about the other half. And these aren't things that we came up with or unearthed. This is stuff that's supposedly known in circles. And we're telling huge allies, hey, this is in there too. And they're being surprised. Someone has to go out and do that. So I'm going to go out and do that because I physically can.
No, I appreciate that for sure. And thank you for your efforts. I really appreciate that. So I guess the next question would be, how do you think today went? Do you think that we made an impact? Do you feel like you took some stuff away from today? Like, just tell me how you're feeling about it.
Yeah. I mean, going into today, I was not very hopeful that much was going to get done because a lot of our meetings were with, representatives who were in agreement with us. But again, like I said, a shocking amount of those people didn't know everything we had to talk about. And even more so than that, the ones who did know may have not known appropriate strategies or the right ways to handle things, or just, again, like didn't understand how much this affects people. So like getting the word out there, I think we did a lot more today than it feels like.
Yeah.
Because there were really only 2 meetings that I was a part of, at least, that felt more impactful, but I do still feel like every single meeting made a huge difference for every single person we talked to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We heard a lot that people were like, oh, well, we knew about this one provision because it's in our wheelhouse, but we didn't know about the other 4 or 5 or whatever. And it's like, yeah, no, we need to have an understanding of the broad view of these attacks against us. And I mean, like we heard from Bri, it's like a 5,000 page thing, it's massive. So it's like, it's something that we can't just trust that they know what's going on and that they are clued into like what these attacks are. Like we have to educate them on it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you got involved and that you feel like we had an impact today. I also feel like it was really impactful. And more than that, I feel like we got strategies and plans that we can execute on the future. So it's not just today, but it's also about the next step and the step after that and the step after that. So I think a lot of people tend to view these things as like the individual battles, the individual things that are happening. But really, like, this is, like, we heard a lot today about like mounting pressure. Like, we need to do that. We can't just like jump in at the last second and try to stop it. Like, we need to be consistently pressuring people and talking to people and engaging. So yeah, no, that's awesome. And then do you think you'll participate in future events or advocacy?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously with my wife being involved very directly, like I believe her name's actually on, you know, the paperwork for the Trans Unity Coalition, but you know, I, regardless of that, very much am just trying to stay involved, you know, as long as I can, because I know not everyone can.
Yeah.
You know, I know getting bodies out there is the most important thing. I know how hard it is to find people who will consistently be there.
Yeah.
And I know that even though it's really hard for me to do, I can't at all, you know, so I try. And yeah, I will show up to everything I can.
No, that's awesome. Again, I really appreciate you emphasizing the fact that like this isn't like a passion project for you. This isn't like what you're doing for fun, or like this is something that you view as like a necessary action that you have to take to protect yourself and our community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you in future events and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. So I am here at a lobbying event with the Trans Unity Coalition, and we just got done meeting with a bunch of representatives. We talked to a bunch of people, mostly Democrats, but a bunch of people. And I'm doing interviews to find out more about the people who were involved today and why they're here and stuff. So would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Bri Taylor. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the founder and executive director of Trans Unity Coalition, the nonprofit that was organizing the lobby day here at the Ohio State House today.
Nice. And just give me a little bit of personal information, like what you like to do on your free time outside of like organizing and advocacy. If you have free time.
I didn't expect a personal question. I think it's healthy to find a balance of work-life balance. So I make myself have free time if I don't find it naturally. I do still claim that I am an avid gamer. It has definitely dropped in significant hours, which is honestly probably healthy to lose that many hours of playing Factorio or Rust or so many other games. But I would say that for the most part, I still try to find time gaming because the sun has appeared again on our part of the planet. I also am now tending a little tiny garden once more.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It's really exciting to see things sprout.
Yeah, that's very wholesome. It's like a very nurturing feeling, right? That's awesome.
A lot of nature.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Thank you for sharing. So I was asking, part of my questions was like, how did you find out about today? Obviously, you found out about it because you were organizing it. But how did you find out about the bill and the provisions and everything that was involved with that?
I would probably say that as an avid Redditor, these sorts of stories tend to naturally find a way to me. And at the same time, it's also in my business to make sure that I'm looking into various pieces of legislation or events, demonstrations, ongoings that are happening. And it is something that the moment I heard that Ohio's budgetary bill, which big bill, it's a budget, covers a lot for 2 years actually, so it isn't just an annual budget, but it was something that I thought, okay, there's going to be stuff snuck in, surely. So, and this is something I try to tell all members of the public. If you have any curiosity about what is in your state's legislation, most state websites that I've seen, you can look up like a section for bills. You can look up a section to search for keywords. And if you have a particular advocacy interest, like let's say you are the member of a trans advocacy nonprofit and you want to look up keywords like gender, transgender, affirming care, etc., you can sift through different pieces of proposed bills and you can see what pops up. And if you have an inkling that there might be a bill that's, really big, really hard to sift through, you can just download it as a PDF, hit that magic control fine, or I apologize if I'm excluding Mac users. whatever the key equivalent is there.
Right.
But you can just search for these keywords, and sure enough, this 4,000 page budget bill had several different anti-trans provisions. I say 4,000 even though it's now 5,000, because when I happened to look into this, there was an omnibus that was being pushed through the House Finance Committee that included another additional roughly, I think it was exactly 1,013 pages. And there were also some additional anti-transgender provisions in that too, just to be kind of snuck in there.
Right. Right. Yeah. It seems like, it's important to be like looking for things, like, like the information won't just always come to you. Sometimes you really do have to go looking for the stuff and like try to search it out yourself, to parse it out yourself, that kind of stuff. It's really important, I think, especially during this climate, that we're paying attention. Like, I know some people, they get burned out on news and politics, and I tell them, like, at least pay attention at your like state level. Like, you should know what kind of bills are coming up in your state level and be ready to know what the implications could be, what you could do to potentially help out with that cause, that kind of thing. I think it's important. So I really admire what you're doing here. I think it's super important.
I admire what everyone who has been helping us with all of this is doing.
Yeah, for sure. So for the next question, I just wanted to ask basically, like, what made you specifically want to get involved with organizing with this kind of fight,
So I usually run by the standard tale of mine going back about like 5 or 6 years. I'm originally from California, and just right after COVID hit, I actually moved to San Francisco. Very, very liberal part of the country, very queer part of the country. And being in California, which is naturally my home state, speaks to me because I do feel in many ways a strong association to that vibe and that culture.
Yeah.
And I had, back in 2019, sometime after having came out and begun transitioning, I founded again, avid Redditor, a subreddit. Am I allowed to?
Yeah, go for it, for sure.
Called Trans Memorial. It's essentially like a virtual memorial space as a subreddit for people to look to add stories.
Aww.
It isn't all gloom stories. Some of them are actually very uplifting about, it is mourning and loss, but say a story of somebody who says, I lost my friend this many years. She lived an amazing, beautiful life. She passed away in her sleep, and I could not have wished to have known someone more beautiful.
Aww.
Stuff like that. We do unfortunately see a lot of stuff that comes in, which is a lot darker though, as I'm sure many people listening to this might expect. And over the years of seeing the stories coming in and moderating a space like that, I've always really wanted to do a little bit more to help take a stand there. And granted, this was back in the first Trump term when there was still a lot going on in American politics, but the heat was not so much on the trans and non-binary communities specifically, so much as it was the broader queer and LGBTQ plus communities, and the right still trying to attack that as they could.
Right.
And that was a time when I thought, hey, I have some spare time, I'd like to help. But being in California, there's already a lot of advocacy there. And something that I can say that can easily get taken for granted is the fact that living in a very blue sanctuary state, you don't really get as exposed to what's going on in other states, even more purple states, where the battlegrounds really are legitimate fights that can swing in either direction rapidly. And in that time, it just didn't feel right to start something like that back then. But about a year ago, I actually moved to Michigan. My boyfriend, who I met in California, very amazing, wonderful human being, was raised in a very wonderful, loving household. He's actually from Ohio.
Oh, okay.
And so I visited Ohio a few times and, kind of gotten a feel for what it is like out here in just one particular, suburb in the state. And the state's big. And he had been wanting to move back here to be with his parents as they're getting a little older. And I, being from San Francisco, wanted to save more money. So I thought, combining a few factors in my own personal life, that kind of wanted to move out closer this way. And the option between Ohio or Michigan definitely felt a little bit more like, I think I would prefer Michigan.
Yeah.
Just if I'm being honest there.
I get it.
A little bit more I wouldn't even just say comfortable, but there were other like fiscal and financial factors I thought were a little bit more conducive for me.
Right.
But I now live in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is very close to Ohio by design because I visit Ohio all the time to see my partner's family. And it allows me the opportunity to see a little bit of Toledo when I can. But Ohio is a big state and I always try to learn more. I self-identify as somebody who is a traveler of both the world and the universe, which separate plug-in. For anyone who already knows me, they'll understand that reference. I won't plug anything in because I probably shouldn't plug.
Oh, it's okay. You can
traveler
plug
of the
whatever.
universe. And if you're offering,
Yeah, I mean,
in.
go for it.
I actually also have a for-profit aerospace startup that I run, and that's something I really don't want to talk about too much, but just to explain the reference, I'm interesting, and I say that objectively with a very, interesting, stating that ironically. But anyways, I was saying that coming out this way, where it's, not as blue as California out here, I thought that now was a time to put the business side of my brain together and think about nonprofit ambitions.
Right.
And so back in August of 2024, I took that idea to paper and then started to bounce around different meeting spaces, asking people, hey, I really have an interesting idea for trans advocacy nonprofit. Here's what it is. Would you like to know more? And, being new and being fresh, it was something that, while there were a lot of people interested, there weren't a lot of takers, and it's a startup, so it's the kind of thing that takes a little time to show. But I found people who were incredibly interested and wanted to help out more, and from there, finding the founding volunteers, getting that to slowly snowball.
Yeah,
it was growing into a legitimate entity. So in October, that's when we first officially registered our Michigan chapter, which was our headquarters and first state chapter. That was the official christening of our nonprofit. And so right after that happened, the election happened.
right.
Which then painted a darker future for not only our community, but America as a whole. And being a nonprofit that at the start wanted to be US expansive, that really has a grounds to growth and scalability, while also retaining local efforts within a state, within different populaces, but being able to carve out a path nationally to show that there is broader connectivity, not just as a nonprofit, but as a community of volunteers made by the community of us. That was something that was part of that original vision. And because of how the election was, that I believe really kicked off the actual need, where a lot of people were reaching out and asking what they could do because they didn't want to sit back and feel just despair and gloom all the time. And I would probably say, if anyone is listening, we all feel that struggle right now. We are all scared, but it is by design that you feel that way to do nothing, because the powers that be want you to feel so broken and small that you are worthless. But the strongest thing you could do is tell people, I love myself and I will do what I can to help us.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. I really love what you said at the last part there.
Hope that wasn't all too rambly.
No, it's fine. It's an interview. No, we're here to get to know you. They get to hear from me all the time, so it's no worry at all. I appreciate you talking about how you started that Reddit. That sounds like a really beautiful project, and I think that that's really meaningful. So I appreciate that you did that. And then I appreciate everything that you've done, honestly. I think that the insight and like, hey, there's a need here for these communities, and finding a way to get involved and move, like you changed a lot in your life, and in order to be here to do what you're doing. So I think that that's an important lesson in like how there's sacrifice, but also like you're still living your life. You're still, doing things. So it's not like you had to give up everything, but yeah, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I could probably say I don't feel like I've given up too much. I feel like part of growth and part of sharing your experience with the world is seen more. And
Yeah.
while, you know, like I can call a place home and I can miss that for the reasons such as nostalgia and, you know, friends and stuff like that, I don't really feel like I've given that up because they're still definitely, you know, part of me here. And to meet new people, like, such as yourself, I would not have this opportunity to
Right.
meet like beautiful people like you
Oh, thank you.
without, you know, taking that look down into the void and leaping in.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think, yeah, confronting the unknown and being willing to be open to new experiences, I think that's like a huge thing. And when people accept that, like it really opens up so many possibilities for them. So I think that that's huge. I just want to make it sure it's still recording. I'm afraid it's going to overheat. Okay, it's still going.
Okay,
So
I always
good.
have that struggle too. I put a mirror or something behind it if I don't have somebody to help.
Yeah,
Which-
yeah,
It's really a struggle to find like an assistant, you know.
I know.
It would be so
Yeah.
nice.
Okay, so I think the last question would be basically, how did you think today went? Do you feel like there was an impact made? Do you feel like you learned things that you can put forward in the future? How do you feel like today went?
I feel like it was honestly a total success in that one big part of why we were here today, regardless of any outcomes or any, you know, further actionable opportunities that we could follow up on, was to spread awareness of these particular anti-trans provisions in Ohio's proposed budget bill. And having talked to members of both the House and the Senate today, it is objectively true that there were parts of the budget bill that had not yet been on everyone's radar just because of how rushed a lot of these things were. And it's a 5,000 plus page document.
Right.
To have that really just speed on through it's a big chunk of a team's time to really be able to break it fully down. And we put out a video that was a bill breakdown specifically for the anti-trans provisions, which is on our YouTube plugin.
Yeah, I'll actually put a link to that video in the description.
Thank you. And then also having some talking points that we were able to email out as a one-pager to the different offices, even the ones that we weren't able to meet today or feel we don't necessarily have that relationship built to meet them anytime soon. Being able to send that out to people, from what we heard today with those that we did meet, having that printed in front of them and being able to look at that, it is the fact that there were parts there that people had now learned because of our presence here today.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
So I imagine that means all the offices that we sent that to, they either didn't follow up or, you know, said a quick thank you without too much comment. It really begs the question of who else did we inform about these things? And it definitely is important to get the word out. Beyond that, though, we made really good relationships today with members of the State House.
Yeah.
And we have some clear ideas and plans that we are immediately going to jump on because there is a concrete timeline until the budget bill goes from the Senate, where it currently is at, to the Senate Finance Committee, and then back to the Senate for a vote, and then to the governor's desk. And there is a good, ample amount of opportunity to strategize in that timeline. But we definitely need members of Ohio's public to help, because we cannot do this without numbers, and we cannot do this without an extension and show of support.
Yeah, no, that's for sure true. I think that we had a good showing of people today. Like, I think like we had enough people to split off into multiple groups and do multiple meetings at the same time and still have like plenty of people in each meeting to represent, you know, different talking points or whatever. I feel like that's important, but, you know, moving forward in the future, the more people we have involved and the more hands that get in on this, like, it's just going to improve the situation for us, make it easier.
Yes.
Because, you know, not everyone's always available. So even if we have, you know, some people that want to consistently come to these kinds of events, having, you know, even if someone just wants to come to one event to try it out or see what it's like, or to give testimonial once, like, that's way better than doing nothing. So I would encourage people to try like going out to some of these events. You know, maybe if you link up with Trans Unity Coalition, you can learn about what they're scheduling in the future, make plans to go and do like something like testifying, having a testimonial. would be huge. Like just having someone to speak their experiences to people. One thing I think we learned today is that there's a lot of ignorance, and there's a lot of like there are certain people that really want these provisions in the budget bill, but then there's a lot of Republicans who like didn't know they existed or don't have any strong opinions on it, or like they're focused on property taxes or whatever else. Like they don't care about this stuff in the sense that like they're willing to go to bat against us. And so having giving a face to the what these bills are like targeting, like who they're targeting, I think that's important. Like it helps build up the humanity of how people view us. You know, we're not just like a stereotype or something they hear about. Like we're real people, and when they meet us and they're sitting across from us, I think it's a whole different ball game than when like we're on Twitter or whatever. You know,
It gets incredibly exhausting to have to repeat time and time again to people who you might only see a single moment in your life that we are people too, but we also have to remember that that is the unfortunate challenge, that we cannot let that energy down. If it requires a perpetual reminder to people that we are human too, that we have experiences that are of our own, just as other people have their own experiences. And if we have to use that to discuss who we are, even if it's time after time after time again, I would say that it is inspiring to see people who came out today who have firmly expressed they are willing to be that constant reminder, because we know that, you know, we look out for each other.
yeah, for sure, for sure. That's a great answer. Okay, I mean that's pretty much the last question is: are you going to do more events in the future? But like obviously you're going to do more events in the future because you're like helping organize a lot of this stuff. So
I would probably say that in addition to like advocacy events, being a nonprofit, there's also so many other things that we do too. And
right,
one big appeal, I think, to our nonprofit is that we don't have like one specific service or program that we do. We actually have a whole breadth of things. We have a relocation assistance program interstate. We have life-saving technique training seminars where, as a former EMT and a current CPR instructor under the AHA, we are allowed to give free CPR training to people. And it is the kind of thing that we would love to expand to first aid and self-defense, but it is something that we can offer. We also have a side of our organization which is like made up of journalists, both, you know, filming and writers.
right.
And we also have a research dissemination team that is looking to aggregate and break down all the current research that we have, because there is a lot, despite what people will say and despite what people will dismiss, ignore, or reject when we have new bad research come out. I shouldn't even use quotes when I say bad. It is, you know, bad,
Yeah, it's bad.
bad faith research.
Yeah.
We have a research team. We have an art platform in the nonprofit, and there's like so many other things that we do that arguably could be all their own separate nonprofits. But
Right.
this was just the call to action for, we need all this together to have a community by our community for our community of community needs.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And we do advocacy.
Yeah, no, it's cool that it's like so multifaceted because, you know, like we're all living very full lives, and, you know, it's not just about what we do at like a lobbying event. It's also about like the art we make and the way that we can impact people with stuff like that.
There's so much power of normalization through expressing art. Gender. What is this spirit of mine inside? What does it say about me? How can I make you see that if I can't articulate it or you won't listen? Maybe I can show it to you.
Yeah.
Journalism, to show stories and coverage and to talk about what something means, what that kid saying, I don't feel like I'm a boy, like what that means. Like, you know, to be able to put stories out there where people read that, people take that to heart, people think, you know, somebody probably isn't making this up, this is probably a real thing and I should listen to it more. And then research, being able to show that, you know, data shows that there is authenticity to all this. And so like that I have been calling the triad of normalization, which I speak to a lot because those are like 3 separate teams on the team,
Yeah.
sub teams on the team.
Yeah.
And but they all do really important things.
Yeah, I think that's a cool way of describing it. Like it's a multi-tiered front of normalizing us in the eyes of the public and people that don't know anything about trans people. So
Make an ally, make an impact.
right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you and everything you're doing. So yeah, thank you for your time. And I don't know how to end interviews, so that's the end of the interview. Cool.
Okay, we are back from the interviews. I hope that you guys enjoyed those as much as I enjoyed giving them. I felt that it was valuable, and I would love to do more stuff like that in the future, just so that, you know, people can get exposure to what it's like to be an advocate and to go out and do stuff like this in real life. Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? That kind of stuff. I think that those questions are really important to ask people so that, like, you know, those of you who are online watching this right now can get an understanding that, like, they're just normal people who want to make a difference, who realize how important this fight is, and they're fighting. But really importantly, did you know that we have a Discord? Yes, my community has a Discord. And so if you go to the description of the video, there will be, as mentioned in the interview, a link or two in there about like the Trans Unity Coalition and like their YouTube video over this budget bill and stuff. But also there is a link tree. If you go to the description of the video, click the link tree, it pops open. There's a Discord link. You click that and you're on your way to my Discord. It is a wonderful place. I'm excited to see more people joining there almost every single day. There's a wonderful supportive community, and we are definitely, like, I hear a lot of people say that it's helping them get through these dark times. It's helping people organize, like it's helping people get connected with organizations and with protests and with all sorts of stuff. So if you're interested in going in there, sharing pictures of your pets, chatting with other people, making friends, connections, all that stuff, I highly recommend it. You know what I also recommend? I recommend that you like, comment, and subscribe.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Who did you like hearing from the most? What did you learn from the interviews? I'm really curious about your thoughts. I will be reading the comments. So please leave them down below, and I hopefully will have time to reply to you as well. Honestly, I've said this before, I do want to go full time on YouTube. I would have a lot more time to do this kind of stuff. Like, I would have so much more time. That is my goal, is to be doing advocacy and YouTube and all that stuff like full time. I want that to be my job. It's what I'm passionate about. You know, it's like what I want to do. It's what I'm here for. That is something that I would really like to have more time to do. So your support for my channel helps me out a lot in pursuing that goal. Speaking of pursuing that goal, I have that link tree I mentioned, right? Well, it's also got a Patreon. So that Patreon is how people are able to support me financially to do what I am doing. I've held off on channel memberships on YouTube simply because they pay out a smaller portion of the pie to me from the memberships than Patreon does. And it has been incredibly helpful so far in growing my channel. It has allowed me to get some support and some help from some people to make this more sustainable for me. So I'm extremely grateful for all the support that I've gotten. The people who have donated to my Patreon and continue to donate to the Patreon, seriously, thank you all so much. You will see names popping up on the screen for that right now. You'll see them popping up. And yeah, these are the wonderful people that help fund my channel. But also, did you know there's a top tier and they get shouted out every video? With that top tier, I have to say, when I saw that I had like a bunch of new super supporters that subscribed recently, it blew my mind. It meant so much. So we have Yucatan. Thank you so much. They did a custom like amount per month, and it is, I don't want to say the exact number, but they are doing more than they need to do, and genuinely thank you so much. We have Sierra, we have Sophie's Dead Name Walking, Ultraviolet Voodoo, Chastity, and I think that those are all the new ones. So thank you all for becoming super supporters. Like, genuinely makes a huge difference for my channel, and it's the only way that I'm going to be able to move towards full-time doing this stuff, is by having Patreon subscribers who help me out like this. But I don't want to forget the rest of my super supporters at all. For real, do not want to forget about them. So we have Kate, Fiona Dobson, Cal Fiore, Jasmine Wilson, Maddie, Trisha Pizzafred, Katie Bug, Sarah J. Buck, Nikki Notzel, and Sarah. Thank you all so very much. You are deeply appreciated, and I could not be doing this without your help. So again, thank you. Thank you all very much for sticking around, for watching the video. I hope that you learned something. I hope that this experience was enriching for you or inspiring for you. And again, just let me know in the comments what you thought about those interviews. I really only have one other thing to tell you, and or well, I guess ask you or demand of you, however you want to frame it or view it. Drink some water, okay? Drink some water.